welcome to another episode of The Common Theory. I am very excited to have the winner of the RIW event here with us today, and we're going to be doing a little bit of conversation about all of it. I cannot say how excited I am to have this because I was a part of it. Puzzle was a part of it. There were so many of us that were actually there in person, finally getting to meet each other for the first time. And I am just pumped. I don't have words for it. I am excited. I am just so excited. I cannot say being too repetitive, you guys. So let's just get to it. I would like to definitely start off by introducing our winner. Paul, please take it off for us. Introduce yourself. Tell everyone who you are.
Hello. For those of you who don't know, my name is Paul. I go by Scarecrow1779 on the internet, on Reddit, Twitter, Discord, etc. So if you want some history on me, I started playing Magic in 2004, just a middle schooler at scout camp, playing on, dusty picnic tables with getting taught by my friends. I started shortly after Mirrodin. Broodstars is the card that got me into the game. I was an unrepentant Timmy, big stompy things for a good 9-10 years of kitchen table casual. Eventually shifted into EDH and started brewing decks like crazy in the mid-teens, and then I moved to Japan. I went from stupid casual brews and walked into a much higher level pod than anything I had ever played with before, and they ground me into the dirt. And from there, they also slowly started dragging up my skill. So the people I was playing with were legacy players at heart. They were previous tournament grinders, and they slowly started to instill some rigor and care about the mechanics of the game into me, instead of just like, I don't know, I'm gonna do things for fun. It's like, no, think about how you're doing things, think about it strategically. And really, I didn't appreciate it as much at the time because I was getting beat down, but really that got me to do a better job with the fundamentals of the game, and I wouldn't be here without that experience. The other thing that group did was really push me towards caring about budget, because they had many $1,000 decks, like with Tabernacle at Pendrell Vale and other like $1,000 cards in them, like Chains of Mephistopheles, crazy things. So that also pushed me into getting into PDH. And come early 2018, I'd had like my own experimentation with like creating pseudo PDH on my own, and then 2018 I discovered that it was a real format, and I quickly found myself just headfirst diving into Reddit. Ruffigan, one of the existing figureheads of PDH and a member of the PDH home base founding group, was a moderator then and invited me to be a moderator. I grew in my role from there, from moderating the subreddit to eventually becoming an article writer for PDH home base, talking about, before Fire Design even had a name, how it was impacting our format as it was replacing the New World Order, and grew from being an article writer into an RC member when we finally formalized having an RC. So that's been my journey from kitchen table player to kind of like community organizer / leader in the PDH realm, and one of the very vocal people trying to get thoughts out about what our format is. And all that happened before we even really developed a competitive scene.
My apologies. Continue. Go ahead. Well, no, I was just going to say, like, that's literally sounds like somewhat of a journey of casual to competitive to high power to all of the different words we could use, right? Like, you described so many different styles of playing that you did then, and now we're here, right, to our next section, right? So let's move on to section number 2. Your journey now is from... Now, I'm not trying to say certain things here, but I will say that you are a bit more known for playing casually. And now you are here playing competitively. So, like, let's definitely, like, touch on that and move to section 2.
So, real quick, before we get into the meat of my journey, I liked what you all did on your last video where you all were viewing Clay, where you kind of like define terms ahead of time.
Of course.
So talking about casual and talking about competitive, this kind of power level discussion, me and you, Gator, like the first day when we got to town in Detroit, we had this great conversation in the car about what we think power levels mean. And
yes.
Do you mind if I just like blow through that real quick?
By all means, please.
So my view, and I heard you say one or two things that made me think you might have a different view, and I was really eager to hear it. My view has been, that I've been espousing for a long time, is there's 3 power levels in PDH. There's casual, there's mid-power, there's competitive. And the only reason these things are useful is from a pod building perspective. You don't want mismatch, feels bad games that one person wins and never had a chance of losing and other people are crushed and didn't have a chance to participate. You want to avoid those games so you don't mix casual deck building and competitive deck building. And mid-range can kind of play with, or mid-power can play with either. That's the way I have viewed it. And there's been a lot of discussion recently on Discord about the existence of high power, reaching back kind of to the terminology that people use in EDH, where in EDH you have your super casual decks, then you have like precons, then you have like kind of the 7s where everyone says their decks fall, but there's still this huge power gap between 7s and competitive. And so that's kind of why you have the necessity of defining high power in EDH, and then that terminology bleeds over into PDH. So you were saying high power, and from those other conversations, I was thinking that you meant it in terms of, like, that sounded like it was describing the same thing as I say mid-power for. And then when we got into discussing it, I realized that there was actually more nuance to what you were saying, that I wasn't really describing in my very basic model that I was using for kind of an elevator pitch of PDH in a lot of cases. So, and when we talked it through, we ended up finding that the additional aspect that you were describing was, I was saying purely deck building and building a pod, and what you were describing was within mid-power, there's stuff that is like fringe, it's getting towards competitive, and describing those as high power, or even just describing all of mid-power as high power, it helps people sometimes to get a sense for how their deck relates to other decks in the pod, and can help them better understand where they are in a more granular way on the power curve, which helps with politics within the game. So instead of just on a basic level, get a pod where everyone can participate, now it's, how do I act in this certain game composition with these decks? So there was a lot more granularity that you were trying to describe, whereas I was just trying to put something that at a very basic level could be pictured without necessarily reaching into all the extra connotations that EDH language brings with it.
Well, it also brought into, like, that subject brought into, like, I come to, like, play with you guys, right? And I have one deck, but it's all I own. And I show up with it. And it is what it is. So I have to almost conform that deck to whatever style you guys would like to play. Maybe I don't have it here or there, but I have to try, and we have that conversation, right? And then the feel bads get to go away. But if we never have that conversation, what happens, right? That's where the feel bads once again start happening. So, but yes, I really actually enjoyed that conversation. That was like one of the coolest car rides.
Yep.
Very awesome.
And kind of on the other end of the spectrum, me and Sniffhow from the PDH Pals, Eric, we had a similar conversation focusing on how you can take a mid-power deck and your gameplay can make it play in a casual way. And it really kind of mirrored the same way me and you were talking about things. And the discussions between me and you, Gator, and me and Sniff, like, it feels like my worldview really got a lot more depth and granularity to it. Like, there's a lot more nuance to how I think about the boundary between power levels now, and I love it because it's not just the deck building aspect, it's how you play it and just how you're thinking about politics and how the way you describe your deck's power level affects how you think about politics.
Correct. Well, what do you think?
I do want to mention kind of some real world applications that might have happened at the place we were staying in Detroit. I went to go play some casual games with Sniffo and Paul and Scooby, I think. And I was like, well, the most casual thing I have on me is Sidrax's Spectre. And immediately everyone starts groaning. And they're like, oh, you can't play that. And I was like, I'm
ready for you to counter every spell and make me discard half my hand. Here it comes.
And I was like, okay, but in my eyes, I think that deck would do horrendous at a casual pod because, like, what's it going to do against a 6/6, you know? Like,
6/6 vanilla. 6/6 vanilla, too.
I can kill one of them, but 4 of them? Like, the deck's not built to keep up with that. So I just ended up playing one of the Pals decks, and the game still ended on turn 7, first off.
And similar things I've run into in the past is, like, I have a copy of an old version of Alex Birdhorse that was tuned for the Tatiova CPDH meta, where it was all spells, no creatures, no combat. And my God, does it get run over when you're in a mid-power combat.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I've played that deck too, and it's like, man, this is just, like, the formats are almost like different formats with the power levels and stuff, which is something I talk about. But
it was super funny because after Puzzle was in that game with you guys, because we had like our little sections, right? Like we had like the competitive section, we had like the let's be happy and go lucky and play for hours section, and then we kind of had like the stragglers that were like, let's do whatever we want. And it was so
like whenever you all got that first game started and the rest of us were just dicking around signing each other's cards and we look up from signing cards and we're like, and you all we're done with game 1. What are you all doing? You haven't even started.
Yep, it was really funny. My favorite quote from Puzzle from that day was, guys, I'm sorry. I'm even with this casual deck, I'm still like super try hard. Like,
which is okay. So back to the topic of journey from casual to competitive. So we've defined the terms casual. My version of casual, mid-power, competitive, mid-power, high-power, interchangeable in my eyes when talking about deck building, because ultimately it's just about not mixing casual and competitive. But it's like casual, you're making lots of purposefully inefficient deck building choices, and it can be like things like floor meta or like a purposely really bad commander, so you're just missing out on a big chance at
tabletop, baby, tabletop. Yeah.
Mid power, you're still making some inefficient choices, or you're aiming at a slower game, or you're doing something because you like a little bit of flavor, but you're mostly trying to win. And then that can either be played more casually or played more competitive, so you can play with both. And then competitive, winning is everything, speed is everything, efficiency is everything, very careful card choices, very careful play, etc. So that's kind of the base terminology I'm using. I have lived my life in mid-power, mostly because I don't want every game to be a counterspell war, which, sure, there's lots of outdated assumptions there, and we could get into that all day long. But, you know, people have their ruts they get in, and that's been mine. Assuming competitive brings counterspell wars and that not being my flavor of preferred game, I have stayed in mid-power, and even being mid-power, I have always had that very competitive mindset. I was raised playing tons of card games and board games with my family, and we were cutthroat with it. My brother would metaphorically shank me in a heartbeat. So.
Well, I mean, you're kind of bringing us to our next section, right? Like, you're talking about the counter spells. You're talking about meta choices, what somebody's going to bring to the table in a competitive setting, right? So let's move on to the next section if you guys are up for it, unless anybody has anything else to add.
Just one thing.
Go for it.
The whole journey from casual to competitive, if you're looking at me specifically, I have only dabbled in competitive at the fringe levels. My competitive gameplay up to this point, I've never taken Viscope into a competitive pod until this tournament. I've only done fringe things like trying out Loyal Guardian, like trying to aggro people to death in just like streamed competitive games that, you know, fringe.
I mean, that still gives the hope, though, right? Like, that's kind of why this is so important for you to even be here right now, truth be told, right? Because, like,
it's not like it's not like going up to this tournament. I was like, okay, time to step into the training grounds, and went and was hammering out games with you all. I
exactly
was getting into it.
Yeah, it is much different than me with Abdel, right? Like Abdel, I was grinding and grinding and grinding and grinding, and then I went into the event and I was just like, bah. Yep. You were like, yay.
I'm gonna meet so many people. That was my
yes.
coming into this.
You didn't say that pretty much.
Yeah. Yep. So like it's the thing we have with our format, if I could throw these 2 cents out there to a lot of people, is we have kind of hope. I know that's weird to say, but like you could still bring a deck and you might have the best matches, worst matches, but politics have a lot to do with it. Gameplay has a lot to do with it. And I know we're going to jump into that here soon, so I'm not going to spoil anything, but let's hop into it. We need to hear this from you. This is the next section, you guys. The meta choices and your preparation. We already just literally went through the preparation, right? Like you kind of didn't. You just brought your deck.
It was all here. It was
exactly.
Player repetition.
Exactly. But you did specifically make meta choices, which I think is important to speak about, because you at least considered, well, I think this will be here, or I think this is strong, or so on and so forth. And yeah, please let us know, what decks did you like? If you specifically played against a deck, why? Or if you didn't, then
I mean, there's 3 decks that we've been hearing all about recently, right? Gretchen got Abdel. Well, what's good against all 3 of those? Board wipes, especially instant speed board wipes. Well, there was also no black at Sanctuary, so I like to be different. I like to make decks that no one else does. I love fleshing out our format and finding the holes where no one has explored. That's part of the things that pulled me into PDH. I was the first person, I think, to really be, as far as I know, I was the first person to figure out that if you give Spite Mirror Indestructible while it has Guilty Conscience, you can make an infinite loop and kill the table. Other people had found it with like Stuffy Doll, but no one had figured it out with Spite Mirror. I was the first person to do so, as far as I know, and that was like one of my first posts on the Pauper Commander subreddit. I love filling gaps in the format. So there was no black at Sanctuary. I want to play black. That was the starting point. Then it was, okay, I have Vizkopa. I like that. Okay, how can I tailor it to the meta? Well, board wipes are good against the 3 top decks that everyone are talking about right now. Okay. And then on top of that, there's also this kind of meta adjustment for Vizkopa specifically that kind of goes back to the beginning of competitive as part of our format. So early days of competitive, it was combo, control, tons of counterspells, long grindy games, no combat. And a lot of people bemoaned, in the days before Rhystic Mystic were banned, the fact that it was 100% blue pretty much. It was like Zada and everything else was blue. And Vizkopa was always something I pointed at, like, even if it was only fringe viable, it's here's something that's not blue that can win. And I don't think anyone seriously took a Vizkopa deck and tried to make it work in that meta. I talked with Crash in prep for today about what the list was that he had for a while in the lower tiers of his tier list, and he basically said it was a list they found online. They knew Vizkopa had potential, but it wasn't something that was really that proven through gameplay, which is rare for what his tier list was at the time. So there was this idea that I had in my Vizkopa list that I was developing at the time, that is, you use abilities, activated and triggered abilities, because at the time we had 0 counterspells. We still only have 1, and it's not really even used. So activated and trigger abilities are the way Vizkopa gets big life gain without being vulnerable to counterspells. And that is the other meta choice in why I chose this deck and the way I built it, is that I can avoid counterspells that the combo players are throwing at each other.
I mean, everything you said there is really good against the 3 decks, right? Like, you took... So, I'd like to kind of beat on that point a little bit. Like, you did consider specific decks that you had the potential to see. And yes, they were there, right? Like those decks did show up in quantities, right? There wasn't just one of those decks. There was at base minimum 3 of each of those decks, right? So because of that, I think it was smart for you to do that, right? So I like that. Puzzle, you have anything to add to this?
Yeah, so obviously I agree with the point about abilities. I think that's exactly where Viscopa fits into the meta, especially even ignoring the anti-counter spell stuff and all that. With aggro being more prominent in the format, I think Viscopa is also in an interesting place with that life gain aspect.
If you want to delve into that, actually there's a big difference between perception of Viscopa and what my build actually does. Perception, and I ran into this time and time again, including in my game with Gator, is it's a life gain deck. It's going to gain life, and it's going to be hard for me to beat down, so I need to kill it early. And Viscopa, my build doesn't gain life early. I'm eating my life so I can draw cards with black sorceries. Like, game 3, Conrad was like, he's going to gain life. I need to target him first. And I'm like, here, I'm gonna Night's Whisper, read the bones. I'm going to pay for life. I don't care. I'm not gaining life. Look, attack the mono white player. He's gaining life. He has an extort creature. Get him. So me not being a life gain deck first decreases how people perceive the threat of the deck.
We can't go to the next subject. Calm down. We're not at the politics section yet.
But
Shh.
Point is, meta consideration, don't be the life gain deck that people think you're going to be because it will mess up the threat assessment.
Well, for sure. But despite that, you still gain plenty of life.
Yeah,
whether you're a life gain deck or not, you play extort creatures.
Yes.
But it happens when people die usually. Like,
but yeah. Right. Yeah. Like it's more of I'll gain life. Like the thing about Viscopa is if you decide you have to gain life, you can do that, obviously.
Yeah.
Yes,
part of your deck.
Push the emergency button and use a bunch of life gain, but right before someone kills you, even though now you don't have that tool to kill people with it, you're alive. Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. So,
or maybe even your riot control, your little fog.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, that's it. We all know that's against gut, right? Like we all know that's what that card is there for.
Well, actually,
Darko.
If you want to talk more about the casual to competitive journey, you want to know why I have riot control. It's because of the PDH pals.
I mean, that card is sauce, though. Can we be honest about that card? It's sauce.
So the PDH pals, they hate life gain on a visceral level.
Really?
Because at one point,
that's funny.
Had a good bit in their meta, and it just made the games go so long. Like, they were so close to closing out. And then someone's like, War Report, I'm back up at 40, 50. Like, it was just bounce. Oh, that's another 30 minutes on the game.
So are you saying I need to play Ajani's Primate with the Soul Sisters against them? Ajani's Primate as my commander?
So much. But in my early days in the format, I did see some streams where they were still in that, like, we have life gain, we were playing War Report and stuff like that, and I saw how powerful it was in those, and it didn't really get included then, but I kept it in the back of my head. And as the competitive meta grew faster, so did the mid-power meta, and so these fogs entered my deck as a way to not necessarily survive the competitive meta. It wasn't originally in there for gut. It was in there because there's a 6/6 trampler coming my way, or someone's done Throne of the Dead 3 and has a bunch of +1/+1 counters on something that's coming.
Big old Timmy. Yep,
it's
big old Timmy.
So while it is very helpful against gut, or I even used it against some other instant speed abilities because it's not just combat damage, those weren't originally for competitive. It's just the things that are useful in casual oftentimes still have really good uses in competitive.
Oh yeah.
But on that topic, I do want to bring up some cards in your list specifically.
Oh,
man.
Uh-oh.
These cards are memes, right?
Oh man, we're not we're not to that section yet. The open section's after politics.
No, we're bringing up bottle gnomes right now.
Okay. Hang on. Can I handle this for a quick second? Let me handle this, Paul. Let me handle this.
Okay. I'll stay out of it. You all.
Hey, let me handle this. First off, that card's sauce. The end. No more argument. What? Don't look at me that way. It's bottle gnomes. The art is awesome. It's bottle gnomes. How are you gonna not be on my side? You put it in your deck.
Yeah. So I started around Mirrodin. I'm pretty sure where I got my copy of Bottle Gnomes was the second pre-constructed deck I ever got was the one they had. It was called Bait and Bludgeon. It was blue-black, I think, and it had a Broodstar on the front of it. And I got it just to get Broodstar. It's the card that got me into the game. Yes, I saw someone else playing Broodstar at Scout Camp.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious.
That pre-constructed deck also had Bottle Gnomes. So this card has been sitting in my collection for years. I have never used it in literally anything until Vizkopa Guildmage. And it didn't even make it in the first time I built Vizkopa. Like, I have always thought of it as an absolute garbage card. It's just in this super niche application. Turns out it's pretty okay.
Not my gnome. Not my gnome.
Oh no!
Did you ever cast this in tournament?
Yes, I used it.
He's like, yes.
Me too. I used it.
Oh
yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah, it made everyone lose 3 life.
All right, all right, Puzzle. We're skipping this. That's the end. That's after politics. We're gonna talk about random things after politics. We're not there yet.
No, you can't skip over Bottle Gnomes, man.
All right, let's move on, you guys. All right, like we said, politics. So during the event, I would like to bring up round 1. So yes, we're moving to politics now. This is our last section before our random section, right?
It's so hard to keep us on track.
Yes, I know. I see that. So politics specifically, we have to talk about this one, and I would like to use our game 1 as the best example, which we already had this discussion. No. Yes, the answer is yes. So you are typically playing casual, right? So because you're typically playing that, you weren't yet used to the competitive scene.
Yeah, and it took me a while to get into that.
Yeah, so I was your round 1 opponent, one of them, and we had a certain individual. We had the 13-year-old young gentleman there. After I put my 2 commanders out on the table, he looked at me and said, "You're dead." And I went, "Oh no." And as seat 4, there was not really a lot I could do to stop him from doing that.
I know you were frustrated by it, but my God, I've never identified with someone so much. That was me at that age. So, it was me.
Well, I felt like I had teleported my daughter in front of me, and I was like, I experience this at my house every day. What am I doing? How is this happening right now? This is so messed up. And the fact that his name was the same as mine made it even worse. I was like, hey, he has the same name as me. Like, what is he doing? And then he said something my daughter says to me all the time. There can only be one. And I was like, ugh, I'm dead.
Has he even seen Highlander? Is he old enough to see Highlander?
I think he was quoting Phyrexian. Like, there can only be one. That's why interpretation.
Makes so much more sense.
Yes. But what was messed up about this and why this is politics is that I stopped him and I was like, look, I need to be honest with you, and I have been the whole time. This deck is the deck I'm trying to attack, which I pointed you out, and I said, I need to stop him. You're not allowing me the opportunity. I'm using all my removal on you, and I need to go to him. Please let me. I literally said, please let me.
Which goes back to what we mentioned about life gain deck. You were like, he's going to gain life, and I need to stop him before that. And I'm like, I'm not gaining life.
Correct. Well, at the time, you did have a Sungspring Expedition in play. Currently.
Oh, yeah.
But we're not there yet. But yes. So I go, please let me hit him. And he goes, no. there can only be one. And then and I'm like, but he is the threat. And then you accidentally agree with me. Your casual side comes in and you're like, well,
it's not accidental. It's very much how I normally play. My brother's defense in playing games, because I grew up playing with my family, was always anytime I tried to use good solid reasoning, he would be like, no, he's trying to manipulate everything against me. So like in response, I've gotten even more straightforward and transparent. I try to be truthful, non-manipulative as much as I can be. Like I'll guide things subtly, but I will not purposely mislead. And that's very much my MO. Even in this tournament, I try to keep to that. But the thing about, no, you should attack me. Like he's right. I am the problem. Like it wasn't a slip up in terms of like, it was out of character for me to say, or it's not something I would normally say. It's absolutely what I would normally say. And as soon as I said it, I was like, my God, I'm in a tournament.
And you did say that out loud too. Like it was just so funny. And I was like, dude, he just admitted to it. Please let me do this. And he was like, no, you're playing gut leader. The answer is no to you. And I look over, I'm like, Connor, I'm about to die. And Connor's like, he's like, dude, I got the Monarch, bro. I'm happy over here.
Yep.
And it was
until you all left the game, he had Monarch almost the entire time, and then as soon as you all were out, I sat on it most of the time.
Yeah, it was just so funny, right? Because that was such a hilarious political thing. And one more thing I have to bring up, which we kind of touched just a hair, and I have to bring this up because this was more you being casual with all of us, because we had all just played games the night before. So there was only one, the younger individual was the only one that was different from the night prior, right?
Yep.
And at one point, Connor goes to destroy your Sunspring expedition, which has its 3 counters. And you were kind of like, oh.
Additional context of his Copa was underneath some kind of lockdown order. I think it's the one that makes it a citizen from
witness protection. Protection.
Thank you.
Yes.
So it had no abilities. So when I was looking down, it was like, well, I can't hurt you with this. That makes me sad.
It was so funny. Instead of just gaining 8 life, he just let it get destroyed. He's like, I guess it's destroyed. And then like later he's like, I could have gained 8 life.
Yeah. So outside of competitive play, there's a running joke with me and my friends, and this actually originated with the person that taught me Magic, is we'll laugh and say the take back step is the most important part of every Magic player's turn.
Yeah. But it was just so funny, right? Because we were like all friends, all having a great time, and like the competitive side of us was just kind of like poofed out the window. We were just having a great time. I was like, I had my arm on like Connor's shoulder at one point. I was like, bro, like you're about to kill me. He's killing me. Help. Like it and was so happy.
After you got up, I remember like I was focusing pretty hard on like me and Connor's duel, like when I was using my fogs, when he was trying to figure out when he was going to combo, et cetera, et cetera. And I remember you like wandering back over, and I don't remember who you were talking to, but you were like trying to express to someone else that was competitive in nature how uncompetitive this table felt, and how just maybe it was a combination of like novelness, amusement, and disbelief. That how can this be a tournament setting and this is what it's like?
Yeah. Yep. I mean, I speak about the chaos factor quite a bit in general, right? Because you never know what an individual could do when you sit down at the table. And I always use my daughter, right? Because she's young, and if you sit down and you try to use your politics against her, good luck. She's going to look you in the face and say, no.
Yeah.
And then that's it. And that's what he did to me. He looked me in the face and said, gut leader? No. And plowed through me like it wasn't like
there's no game. At, what, 5 or 6 life, and then Ruffkin just picked him off?
Yeah, like not even trying. And it was like, it was what it was. And like I warned him, we all make mistakes. I made a mistake during the event as well, so it was what it was. But it was one of those things where it was like, sometimes you got to work together. But it was just so funny too, because I had known you and him, and we were all just, even after that, we're still having a good time. Yeah. So and I loved it.
Me and Jackson had a conversation afterwards comparing my 10th District Legionnaire experience to the way Sprite Dragon deals commander damage. They both build up over time, and how do you distribute it? What makes sense politically? And actually, Gator, you were the one that brought up marking, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
I'm that guy. Yep.
Yeah. And you don't just single one player out, because then you end up in a blood feud against them, and it makes you weaker to the other players. So instead, you bring up everyone to a medium level to where they feel kind of safe, and they don't know that you're about to one-shot them.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, I call that marking. That's one of the things that I've said quite a bit here relatively more recently. I use it for newer players is typically who I explain that to. And it's kind of like the Dargo treatment, right? You take a Dargo, you slam it into one player once, and then you leave them alone. And you're like, you didn't have blockers, so I hit you.
Yep. And now you have 9. You can take 9 more commander damage, and Dargo is only 7. It's not a problem. You can take another hit and buff spell. And you're dead.
Or Basilisk Gate. Or you're right. There's so many nuances there that aren't seen at first. But let's get back to your we sorry about that tangent. Sorry, Puzzle. That was just our first match, and it was so memorable. I had to kind of really delve into that.
And the thing about Sun Spring Expedition is an important point, because that match was so much looser. Just us talking about it afterwards, I thought through it and was able to identify 3 or 4 different misplays. It was the loosest game by far for me, and I definitely was able to tighten it up after that, but there were still a few, but that was definitely the worst in terms of that. Yeah,
but you were still in your quote unquote, if I may say, in your casual mindset, if you would agree to that. Absolutely. Because you were we were literally having a great time, and I actually had that throughout the event for the record with several different people. Not every round, but a lot of the rounds I did. So
I didn't even know this coming in. This was my first tournament ever. So as you play games, they start to group the players that are doing better together. And the way this tournament was set up, they had one table that was always being live streamed to Twitch, and they had live commentary on that from Derek Alcadron and Brad Popper B. And 2 of them at any one time were doing commentary on the featured table. So after the first round, they were taking people that were doing better in the rankings and putting them in the featured table. So round 2 came along, and they put me in the featured table, and I was getting nervous having the spotlight on me, but it also made me tighten up my play. Subconsciously, the idea of I'm used to take back step is gone. It has to be good for the cameras, or at least a little better, and just everything needs to be more crisp because I'm in this less casual feeling environment, and it helped me tighten up my play a bit.
Yeah.
And then I kept winning and stayed there the whole time.
Way to brag, bro. Way to brag. Gosh.
I mean, if you want just a little snippet of mental game, I was definitely sleep deprived from the night before. It was freezing in that Airbnb.
It's crazy.
If I hadn't been a bit sleep deprived, I think I would have had enough mental capacity for the extra lights and attention to actually psych me out and screw with my mental game. So the sleep deprivation helped me be just unfocused enough to where I couldn't consider all the distractions and was just about the game in a weird way. One of the things that I would come back to again later in this is the thought that the way this worked out for me really was kind of a convergence of a lot of very lucky factors. The fact that we were all here for this convergence of people from around the country, and we're all excited to meet each other. I was just lit up like a Christmas tree with that dumb grin plastered on my face the whole day. And I think that attitude also helped me in the political sense, where it made people less likely to think I was just lying through my teeth or being deceptive or unfriendly or like was about to screw them over. So like that, the sleep deprivation helping me get over like any nerves associated with being on camera, things like that. There were a lot of little things that made this come out a lot better than I expected.
Well, Puzzle, do you get anything for the politics? If you don't,
Oh yeah.
Oh, you do.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So the game that I played with Paul.
Yep.
This was a 3-player game that I did not participate in. My deck decided I was dead right off the bat for mulligans. I only drew forests that I wasn't playing the game.
After mulliganing down to 5 too.
Yeah, I mulled the 5, had 1 forest in hand every single time I mulliganed. But that's besides the point. So we're playing essentially a 3-player game that I'm a spectator who's allowed to talk, which made things really interesting politically, in my opinion, because we have...
So,
Go ahead.
Leading up to this, I've been playing more games on stream, and specifically that meant I was playing with people that I've not played with before. So my history is very much playing with friends, playing repetitively with the same people, where everyone gets used to the idea of who they're playing with. You're not playing with people that you've never talked with before. You don't know what their inclinations are in the game. So playing more on streams like that, it made me pay a lot less attention to who the pilot was and how the mechanics of the commanders were affecting the way the politics flowed in the game, and specifically looking at life gain, who was dealing symmetrical damage to the table, and how that affected who people targeted. And this game, so Puzzle being kind of out of it makes it a convenient example just by simplifying it to where we can focus on some core concepts. So it was me dealing symmetrical damage to the table in a combo fashion, a Sir Conrad player who's dealing symmetrical damage chipping away at people, and the 4th player, in addition to Puzzle, was a mono-white Mother of Runes white weenies deck, which is trying to take an aggressive stance, but is also a bit pillow forty protecting its stuff. And it also had like some hate bears mixed in that didn't really come into play during her. So coming into it, I'm sitting down from my perspective, how do I make this pod work for me politically? Because Viscopa only works if I can have politics in my favor. So mono white deck, I have no idea what it's going to do, but it turns out to be combat and life gain. It gets out an extort creature. So I'm able to use this. Sir Conrad player has been targeting me the first few turns because on my face, I look like a life gain deck. I'm not really, but that's what he's thinking. So he's targeting me first. Me and him have the same game plan. We want to bring everyone's life totals down to where they're even and everyone dies at once, instead of killing one person and then the other 2 are 2v1ing you or something like that. So we both kind of have that same mindset. So as soon as the mono white player actually starts gaining life and they go from 28 to 33, they've gotten 1 or 2 extort triggers that I can use. I hate him gaining life. I need that life total to come down, and so does the Sir Conrad player. So I just do everything I can to, like, we're in this together, like implying it, but also like saying it like I'm worried about this, and just taking all the pressure off me trying to aim the Sir Conrad player at the mono white player. And I have 1 piece of removal. I'm going to use it in a way that helps you. You're trying to kill his Mother of Runes. I'll try to help kill his Mother of Runes.
So are you saying you just like broke my man Puzzle's heart here? Is that what you're saying?
Well, okay. The Conrad player
did not exist.
The Conrad player was murdering. Actually, the mono white player did too. They both were offing Puzzle's untappers. Those were the only things he could play.
Yeah, turn 2, I played a land untapper with my top decked forest on turn 2. I was like, oh, thank God. I hit my land drop. Play a land untapper. Turn cycle goes around, and then right before I untap, Mother of Runes puts an enchantment on so that I can't activate my abilities. And I'm like, oh, well, doesn't matter anyways. My hand's awful. And then it dies to an edict immediately.
Planar Disruption, that's what it was. Planar Incision's the blink one, I think.
Yeah. And yeah, it was like, from that point, I couldn't stick a land untapper. Not that it would have mattered.
Yeah.
But for me, the politics were interesting because in that game, I was essentially just kind of a parrot on Sir Conrad's shoulder because it was really weird to watch them try to navigate deciding between beating up on Viscopa, who gains life, or beating up on the deck that gives protection from a color when you're a mono black deck. And watching them try to figure that one out was kind of interesting. So I was just kind of there trying to legitimately give them advice on where their target priority should be.
Yep. And because, I think being able to talk actually helped compared to if it had literally been a 3-player game, because it meant there was just enough additional noise that it wasn't just me guiding him to attack the mono white player. Well, so it made him less likely to say, you're manipulating me.
Well, something you said here a second ago, it was the deck really relies on politics. So
absolutely.
Yeah, so I'm not saying the deck has to have them, but from what I'm kind of gathering as a whole, politics are incredibly important for this deck. So like if you're going to hand this to somebody, would you hand this to somebody that has no political skills? If
they're going to it depends on the meta.
Well, as a winner of an event now, if somebody sat down with your deck and you're like, bro, you got no political skills, they're just going to get like words of wisdom of Alcatron. Yeet it off of the planet. Right?
I think a point that he's trying to point to is, can you just power through a table and 3v1?
No.
Or no, do you have to get some politics?
I was not trying to get to that. I keep hearing how the politics were so incredibly relevant here.
Well, so let's just describe what does happen if you're bad at politics. Some of the fail cases look like you're trying to aim player A at player B, and player A says, you're manipulating me, I'm going to really screw you over, and here comes 20 damage, and I'm going to attack you again next turn because I still worry about you comboing. So it's very easy for players to, just basically take a disliking to you, and that subconsciously elevates how they evaluate you as a threat at the table.
Well, you could reward them, though, in a fashion, right? So, for instance, somebody was going to hit you or something along those lines. You could take that. So
in my game with Clay, I absolutely did that. It was kind of in a joking fashion, but I had Righteous Aura in play. Pay 1 white and 2 life, and the next time a source of your choice would deal damage to you, it deals no damage. So he had a Malcolm coming at me. I had been telling him to attack Ryan with Dargo for a good bit that game. And this was I think it was the first time he attacked Ryan with Dargo. And so I had the mana open, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to reward good behavior. This is transparent as hell, but I'm going to let you have that treasure from Malcolm because I want to reward you for swinging Dargo where I think it should go.
I mean, that's a hell of a political skill. If I could honestly, like, say it, like, doing things like that. Yeah, but doing things like that really makes the table go, oh, okay, well, he's probably doesn't have anything. And then yeah, go for it.
So some other things are like someone get probes you. You look nervous as hell. They know my secret. They're going to kill me. Or you can just shrug and be like, yeah, it doesn't look great, huh? You don't know my lines. You don't know what you're looking at. And I did exactly that to Clay that game as well. He get probed me, and I just like shrugged, like, yeah, not bad, not great. And he ate it, and it gave him a false sense of security, and he didn't remove his Copa Guild Mage when he could. And as soon as I killed the table, he was like, I had the removal. I should have done it beforehand. Fuck.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, that happens.
Did you say that?
Yep. I get probed 3 times this tournament, and 2 of them I was able to twist to where they were definitely in my favor. And the other one we can get to when we talk about game 2 later. But back to game 3. So 3-player game. Sir Conrad, I do my best to divert his attention from me. I'm not gaining life. I'm eating my own life with black draw spells. Look, my life's going down. White player's life's going up. Let's attack him together. I'll even use my removal to help you. Let's get him. And that happens, and eventually the Sir Conrad player does shift his attention back to me, but it's too late and I kill him. Because I've been saving a fog riot control and am able to stop his combat damage and force him to like activate Conrad a little early, and he isn't quite able to finish me off. And then I kill the table on my turn. So it's almost it's political tempo plays, if you will. No one political thing is going to get you to the end game. You have to string together these ways to get the attention elsewhere on the table. So, and it's all about buying time until you're ready to go off.
Continue. Sorry.
Yeah, just that was the simple game that exemplifies the basic goal play pattern of Vizkopa. Divert attention elsewhere. Watch life totals come back down, whether it's through extort, pinging the table, or combat damage and directing people towards the highest life total. You bring life totals down to where they're manageable, and then you kill them all at once. That's your basic game plan. That's the basic version of how you manipulate politics. Anyway.
Well, I know Puzzle has a lot of different things he wants to talk to you about, specifically on certain card types and card choices. So that was our last true section about like the event, your competitiveness, your choices, your preparation, and the politics.
Thank you, everybody, for tuning in, watching today. Be sure to check in the description down below. We'll have a deck list posted for the Vizkopa deck for sure. Probably put a link to the stream from the tournament if you want to go check that out. Leave a like while you're down there. Leave some comments. Give Paul some love. Thank you all for watching, and we'll see you all next time.